Hello everyone, welcome to the second event of our global UN theme week today. We'll focus on SDG 2 and 12, so zero hunger and sustainable production and consumption patterns. I'm Celine, I'm today's project coordinator. Some of you might have seen me in the event before, and as I said, I will stick around for more events to come. When I was planning this specific event, I was thinking about industrial sectors that have a high contribution or big polluters in terms of chemical waste and CO2. And I ended up with the fashion industry, but we will hear more about it also in today's evening's movie screening, River Blue. For now, we have a concrete example or implementation of a sustainable fashion. Here with us is Gerda Sørhus Fuglerud. Yes, she's the CEO from Oleana, and Oleana is a local company and a family company, and they produce just around the corner. That's super unique about them. And when I read through their webpage, I saw many SDG 12 targets aligned with them, with what they believe in and their action, and that's why I reached out to them. I want to mention 3 of them, so through the presentation you might focus on it as well. It's the second target, which aims to sustainably manage natural resources. Then the 5th target that seeks to reduce sustainably waste generation, especially through prevention. It's a big topic. And also the 6th target that encourage companies to implement sustainable patterns, and also to include sustainability in the information sharing. And with no further delay, I'm very happy to give the word to you, Gerda.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here in this setting and be thought about as a sustainable company in this business, which has a big problem when it comes to taking care of our resources, and handing our planet over to the second generation or the generations to come in a better shape than we've done. So I will introduce Oleana as a company and tell about our production and how we try to be a little bit better in this industry. Yeah, let me see. Yes, perfect. Okay, there we go. Great.
I will just jump in with one more note that we'll have a question round in the end. I forgot to mention, so if you have something, just keep it in mind, and the ones who attend here live can come to the microphone in the front, and the ones on Zoom can just write it in the chat, and I will communicate it later.
Great, because 1 hour to listen to me can be enough, or maybe a little bit too much. So I would really like people to interact. I know that we've had a year of Zoom meetings. So I would really encourage everyone to ask questions to get this a little bit more like a two-way thing. Well, what is Oleana? Oleana is a Norwegian iconic knitwear brand with all production at our own factory in Norway. And that's what you mentioned as well. That is very unique. Believe it or not, people cannot believe that we are producing locally, clothes locally, even though we have a big history in knitwear. I have 2 presentations here. So Oleana is a family business, and I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say that our story has been a story of courage since the start. In 1992, my mother, as you can see her here to the left, with founder Hildegunn Møstad and Kolbjørn Valestrand. So it was 3 founders. They had a vision. They wanted to prove that it was possible to go against the stream, to produce locally, fully produce locally, and build a brand based on softer values. They got one of Norway's best designers on the team, Solveig Hisdal, and they started to build a brand and a business that was growing against all odds. In 1992, all the textile industry were moving to low-cost countries, and they came from Dal of Norway, and they wanted to start their own company and to do good stuff. My husband and me, we took the challenging but very exciting opportunity to lead Oleana into the future. In Norway, we have a proud and very important history of textiles and also textile production and industry. And in Ytre, Arna, where we are located, Arna fabrikker at that time was the first factory on the west of Norway. And it's going back to 1846, so it's really old, it's before the cars, where they moved all the goods by the sea. So it's a really, really old and proud history in Norway on textiles. So when my husband and me, we started in Oleana, we renovated the old building of Arna fabrikker, and we placed Oleana into this historic setting by the beautiful Sørfjorden. Also an advantage when it comes to tourism. Being the new generation, we thought, okay, what we would do with this company. It has a long tradition already. And we decided that our aim would be to keep building on our legacy of craftsmanship, but we also deeply wanted to keep exploring and to innovate in this industry. And we also tried to set up for a new generation of customers. We saw that our customers were getting older, and we decided, okay, what we will do with that. Let's try to innovate and try to build for a new generation of customers. Me, my husband, and Matilda, which is our creative director, and the whole of Oleana production team, we wanted to be brave and confident to do some change, but at the same time build on the Norwegian production. Our vision goes like this: we create clothes people love. If we at Oleana can create a product you really love, we see that as very meaningful and important. Because when you think about it, if you find love, you stop searching, right? So could the answer to society where consumption has grown out of proportions and we throw away things we haven't really touched, could it be love? That you really love something, that you care about a product? Because we dream of a world with less but more beautiful and more meaningful clothing and things, furniture, things that we consume in a brutal way these days. And we are fully aware that the business we are in, and that's probably why I'm here, is one of the most polluting industries in the world. But it does not necessarily have to be that way. And maybe we can do something better than the big players. I'm going to show you a little movie about our production and how we do things. Because it all starts with design, but sustainability has to go into every single step of the production. So here it goes. Yes, that's it. Just to give you an idea of the beautiful place that we're in and how the production looks like. So this 1-minute movie shows every step of our production. We try to bring a fresh burst of life. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Into this old textile village. With local production skilled staff, we wanted to show and offer a more sustainable alternative, being close to the customer. Repairing, tailoring, offering expertise, knowledge, and weave together tradition and innovation. And we are very proud of who we are and what we do, because it's so unique these days. And more often than not, to produce locally, whatever you do, is more sustainable than producing very far away. And I will try to explain a little bit why we think it's like that. And of course, it starts with design. Sustainability starts with design, and then it needs to be followed by skilled and responsible workers and responsible managers and responsible owners. Sustainable consumption, that's why I'm here. Sustainable consumption and sustainable production. Research shows that if you create a product that lasts long, that's the most important thing you can do on sustainable actions, especially in our industry. You can recycle, you can do all kinds of renting and everything, but if you produce a garment or a clothing or a product that lasts long, that's the most important thing you can do. And of course, if you try to do all, it's better. But the lasting part is most important. That's what all research shown. And of course, it's very tempting for the fast fashion industry to jump into recycling or anything else. And of course, it's better, but lasting is what really matters. And how can you create, as a producer, sustainable consumption? How can we try to encourage people to consume in a sustainable way? Well, for us, the answer has been to create a product that lasts very long. And of course, after that, we need to be able to repair it. If you can repair a garment that has lost a button, if you cannot repair that, most people can put a button on themselves. But to be able to be close to the customer after they bought a product, that is one of the answers, we believe, to sustainable consumption. And it also needs to be well designed, because if a product is not well designed, it will feel old very, very soon, very early. It's like a designer lamp, that we are still buying a lamp that is designed in the early 30s. That's sustainable design. And we believe that the value part of a product, the ethics behind it and the history, it's also is very important to the emotional attachment to get to something that you own. So that's where the ethics and the history comes along. Sustainable production, I will go more deeply into that, because I know that you are very interested in production. But for us, I guess it comes down to 3 words. It's about closeness, it's about transparency and honesty. And I try to test myself if we develop a product, and ask myself, will I sell this product to my best friend? If the answer is yes, I think it's the start of something that is more sustainable. First, the whole thing has to make sense. And of course, production is about building a society and building workplaces. And for us, and since the very start of Oleana, one of the big goals was to prove that it was possible to create workplaces within textile in Norway. And when we see how it transformed Ytre Arna after we renovated this rundown building that has been left after 30 years, nothing happened there. And when we saw what that made Ytre Arna, the people of Ytre Arna and the people who worked there before it was closed down, it told us a lot about building a society around workplaces, around what we call hjørnestensbedrifter in Norway. A very important part of the society is a workplace. We need places to work, and we need a variation of places to work in Norway. If we lose everything else but service business and oil, we will end up with a poorer society and a poorer culture. So that's important for us too. And that's why we decided that we wanted to have our factory floor open all the time. So we have an open factory where everyone can come and visit. So our doors are always open, and we feel like that's the most valid proof of doing things correctly. If you're transparent, and if you can show everybody, we have nothing to hide all the time. That is something that we value. So how do we do it? How is it possible to produce in Norway? Most people say that it's not possible. It's too expensive to produce in Norway. That's the answer you will get from almost any company in the world. Why should you produce in the world's most, or one of the world's most expensive countries? Well, for us, of course, it's a bit about being stubborn and trying to take care of an old industry and a culture in Norway. Knitwear in Norway has been like this for very long. But of course, we know that we cannot compete on price. So what do? We try to be different. We have a differentiation strategy. In everything we do at the factory and in our connections with partners, our focus is on quality and delivering high value. It's not about costs. We have very little focus on low price. And then, of course, how are we able to get people to buy expensive products? Well, we have to try to convince them to buy less and to keep their products for a long time. And what is fascinating is that a lot of our customers come to me, and we are not targeting the richest people in the world. They come to me and say, I've saved a lot of money to buy this one, and it proves that it's one of the cheapest garments I've ever had. Because if you take the price of a garment and divide it into the number the number of times you've worn it, that's the real price. So we have very loyal customers, and that's also very important when it comes to costs and marketing costs. Loyalty is cheaper. And then another very different approach is our zero waste and no sale approach. I guess you've all been buying clothing on sale the last couple of months. And the whole industry of clothing has been very much focused into sales. We have no sales, and that is it's a lot more predictable and profitable than having sales all the time. And why is it possible? Because we have a very flexible production. If you compare Oleana to a producer who is producing in China, we produce what we can call in operation management just in time. We produce after order. We produce very, very small scale. And when you produce very small scale, you never end up with a lot of dead stock, which is one of the biggest problems in this industry. both when it comes to sustainable production, but also when it comes to costs. It's very costly to throw away a lot, or to burn, or to destruct clothing which has not been sold. So we do totally opposite. We do very small scale, and we do more lucrative business. And that is profitable. And that's why it's possible to produce at a higher cost, because we don't throw away anything and we never have anything on sale. And of course we do repairs, because we have natural fibers, very exclusive raw materials. We buy our yarn from Italy, Italian spinners. We never throw anything away, so we do repairs at the factory. Sometimes when you do production, especially in the first rounds of production, you get small mistakes. And what we do, we repair them until it's even a second or a full price good. So we do repairs, and we have very low transportation costs. Oh, sorry. I'm just clicking on my own because I have 2 screens. Sorry, thanks. So differentiation strategy and zero waste and no sale. And then the last one is that we do a very small scale and small niche production. We have smaller variation and a lot less experimenting in quality than the big players. And we do, if you take the cost of a product and you divide it into pieces, at Oleana, if you buy an Oleana garment in the store, half of the value is the product costs itself, compared to fast fashion, where it's a tiny size, maybe 5%. That means less spending on marketing, less spending on administration. We have to work very smart and very fast with a lot of people doing a lot of different things. We cannot be specialized in marketing and glossy magazines and all these things, but we focus on product, and product cost is therefore a big portion of our value, but less on marketing and administration. And at last, I will show you a little bit of what we do and what and how we do marketing very cheaply, but trying. This is a film from Oslo Runway, the last fall collection. And here we are trying something new to incorporate our collection into how we do production. And that's something we feel like is more and more important to show people how things are produced. And this is a way of getting people all around the world, hopefully, to see our production and see how beautiful garments can be made at a local level. So here we go. This is fall winter 2020. I'm sorry about you in the room. Didn't really hear my the music, which was a music composed after the sound of the factory sound. So we had a composer, a friend of mine, making music from the factory sound. So the sound of the knitting machines, the sound of the people working, and then we created this soundtrack together with pictures of our collection and people in our production. So that was a very cheap way to do a fashion show in COVID times, where everything needs to be on film. Just keeping our friends together and making a movie to show our collection and show our production. I'm sorry, I didn't really manage to click all the presentations, so you didn't really get all my slides, but I hope that you have a lot of questions to me and that you will challenge me and us as the future leaders and the generation to come that hopefully will tackle these problems that we are in when it comes to environmental health and sustainable, for our sake, consumption and production. So thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me, and yeah, I hope come on with all your questions.
Okay, is there already anyone here in the audience? Yes, okay. And also for the ones online, just post the questions into the chat.
All right, thank you so much for coming. My name is Jörgen, and I was a part of Skolemusiklaget in Ytre when the factory opened. So I still remember like the sheer excitement of the locals when the factory moved from Askeland to where it is today in Ytre. So I've been at guided tours on Trikotasjefabrikken at Sørhus, where we were told the detrimental story of Krone at the 70s and second half of the 20th century. With regards to like the sheep starting production in Japan and China at that time. So I was wondering, how did this feeling during that time affect Oleana? How did you react to it, and how did you still find like the encouragement to continue on, and despite all the harsh competition from especially cloth production in Asia?
Thank you. Oh, thank you for the question. Well, I guess it's first I have to say thank you for mentioning the big and the welcoming we got in Ytre Arna and what it means to the local community, because it's been an eye-opener for me. I'm not that old either, to see with my own eyes how much it means to a society to transform something that has been run down, a factory which is just not taken care of, being more and more like a ruin, and transforming it to what it was before, like the proud production facility in Ytre Arna and all the expertise and knowledge that is there. So thank you for mentioning that. And the last part of your question was, how do we keep up and how do we find motivation of competing with the big players? I think it's a very, very good question, because sometimes we feel overwhelmed by the competition, which is so strong and so professional. As I try to explain to you how little resources we do have on marketing and administration and all these added values that goes into a brand, which has nothing to do with the product. Sometimes it feels like we want to be there. We know that our product could be almost Valentino or Gucci in quality, but the brand and everything around it is not there. But we strongly believe that this is the future. We believe that local production and closeness to the consumer is the future. And of course, it's fun to be underdog and to be a challenger and to prove that it is possible. Okay, we might work hard and we might not be the most profitable company in the world, but still it is possible. And maybe one day we will be the last man standing. Yeah. So it's a bit of stubbornness, and we feel as a second generation that this is the DNA of the company. If we move the production, then we are like everyone else. So it's our strongest competitive advantage.
Maybe I also there have a question about some basic facts. Like I read about companies like Zara or other fast fashion companies that they have a new season. How do you say? Collection now every week. Like before that, it was every half year, or then it was monthly. Now it's weekly. How about you? Like, how often do you change? How's the? Yeah.
Yes. That's a good question. We do it differently. We have 2 collections every year. But what we do differently is that we don't cancel the styles after we've sold them. So let's say you were a retailer, a shop, and you took this green jacket in your shop, and you sold medium and large, and then you have only small, extra large left. If you were buying from an ordinary brand, you would probably not be able to supply those 2 sizes. So the rest, the more odd sizes, had to go on sale. We supply, and we don't take the products or the designs out of collections. Just after many years, we do changes in our assortment.
Okay.
So we are a lot more long term, and even now we are thinking about going away from seasons at all. So merely just doing improvements and coming with news when we feel like it. Yeah.
That's interesting. And also that you mentioned long-termism. That's something we had in our first talk as well, that we need, like, if we have problems with consumption production, that they are caused usually by short sight, like short sight, 1 week, new collection, buy it, throw away. And that's great. That was the future.
Yeah, and it's also a big help for the retailers, because they don't know what to do with the extra small and extra large. You don't get to sell them, and how should you display it? So and that's where we also see big change and a crisis in the retail market, because how is this going to end? You put things on sale and people have so much clothing, and so it's a big issue, and it's a big challenge.
Yeah. Are there more questions? Because otherwise I have a lot of questions. But someone wants to ask something also.
Come on.
I was really interested in what you were saying about the transparency of the company, and I was just wondering if you think that's something that could be like replicated further within the fashion industry, and if you think that's like played a part in people being interested in your company, particularly with like the openness of the actual factory itself.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I read an article a few years ago about the glass house, looking at the company as a glass house, and that in these researchers' eyes or experts' eyes, that is the future. That a company needs to be transparent, because as we are gonna sell to a new generation, they want transparency. They expect us to be responsible and to be showing what we are doing. So I really believe that more brands will do that, and that many brands are already starting. The bad part about it is that a lot of them have always something in the back that they will not show. That the big boxes are coming in from China on this end, where you cannot see, and then you can see this part, which is prototyping. So it's to solve this problem of overconsumption and all the waste and all the bad ethics in this business. You need to have both sides of it. You need to have a consumer that is expecting and demanding brands and choosing brands that are producing in the right way, or a more responsible and transparent way. And of course, you need to have the owners that is more concerned about long-term profit than short-term profit. So yeah, but the house is built in a time where there was no electric light. So that's why we have a lot of windows. So we have no choice. You can see through the house. Yeah.
That's great. We also have now an online question, and she asked, how do you deal with not so much clothes being bought these days anymore?
Yes. Well, I think that is also a great question. These days, we try to. We are very small, so it will not affect us that much. The big trends that we see in the market will not affect us that much. But of course, we are also affected by the COVID situation and by the generation not buying that much new clothing. And that is something that is, it's linking to the question before, that we need consumers to think differently. And how we are trying to solve it is to make products that will last even longer and be profitable, even though we are not selling that much volume, and trying to tap into new markets where we are not known. But the bigger players, they are really affected by the negative growth, which is very good. It's even though we are also hurting in this COVID days where shops are closing and everything, it pushes for change, and that's good.
Yeah, I was oh, do you have a question? No, okay. And especially in different industries, but also in the fashion industry, this idea of circular production or industries gaining more and more attention. And you already said that you give the option to repair, or that you want that it's repairable, that it is longer usable. As you work with very high quality material, how far can you go into the circular economy? Are there any future visions?
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. Our aim is to be circular, and we are looking a lot on the different options to be circular. For our sake, I think it has to be composed of many parts. One is to sell secondhand clothing, to take things back. The other one is to make new garments of what people consider as waste. And I see Oleana as perfectly positioned to be circular, because it's very difficult to be circular if you produce in China. How should you do that? Send everything back to China, or what do you do? So when we have the knowledge of producing of new raw material, of course, we need to be able to produce of a secondhand material. We just need to figure out how. So we are thinking a lot about that these days. We have many customers repairing 20 years old garments, and we have our repair people saying, okay, now we changed this, we've changed that, and then we're changing this, and they are sending it back because after 5 years something else is gone, and we repair. But at some point you need to consider it as non-repairable anymore and try to do something about it.
Yeah.
So yes, our aim is to stop buying new material and be circular.
Okay.
I think that's the future.
It's very beautiful that people have their clothing for 20 years, come back and again. I had a question or no, but now
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So you mentioned the thing about tapping into new markets. I have also seen online that you also have stores in both the UK and in Germany. I was wondering how Oleana was received there and how business is going.
Oh, great. Yes, when Oleana started, it was 3 very experienced people from the industry starting, and they decided very early that they wanted to be big on exports. So Oleana is quite big on exports. We export 50% of what we are making to our biggest market is Germany. And then Switzerland is big, Europe is quite big, and we also export a lot to the United States, to Canada, and Japan is also a big market for us. But now it's very interesting to see, because now we are selling also online, that we get suddenly a customer somewhere we didn't know people knew we existed. So that opens up a lot of possibilities to sell directly to consumer from a producer, and then you can have margins which will make more people able to produce in Norway. So this digital world of shopping is actually also a part of, at least for our sake, it's a part of being more sustainable, because you don't need to spend so much money on all the middlemen. You can send directly to the customer. So that's very interesting. But yes, we are selling quite well in different countries, and that's very fun and interesting.
How is it with the transport or with the sending? Because that's usually also a problem in today's industry, that you can just get it for free, nearly like without paying, and just send it back, and people get a lot more than they actually want. Then there's so much useless transportation going on. How do you manage that process? We
decided that we charge for postage both ways, to push the customer to take conscious choice. And of course we try to help people if they have any problems and to offer excellent customer service. But having free cost shipping both ways is a problem for the people who are paying for it, the companies, and also that people are not thinking about the cost of sending, the environmental cost of transporting things back and forth all the time. So our return rate is very low.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Are there any more questions also
Any
online?
more questions online?
Otherwise, I would dig into the concept you mentioned at the beginning, that you want to have a close relationship with your customer, and that is also how you build emotional bonding kind of to the cloth, which helps sustainability. as people are less likely to just throw it away or to not like it anymore, because nowadays it's very unusual that someone has 20 years clothes and still loves it and just doesn't say, I'm sick of it, I'll get a new one. Like, how can you keep up with that? For example, there's also a company in Germany, and they sent me a postcard afterwards. They are also really into sustainability, and they were like, oh, thank you, Celine, whatever. Do you have specific strategies, or how's it possible to keep the close contact?
Well, it's just been that way, I guess. We have been so different from the very start, and we've been expensive, or it's a high value product since the very start. So I have friends of mine taking their mother's cardigans back into use, because you don't throw away something that is expensive. That's probably one reason. And that a lot of our customers, they already have a relationship to the product. They know the history behind the brand. A lot of our marketing has been around doing stuff like this, telling the story. And if a product has a story, it's more emotional. So I guess it's storytelling and price, and that maybe, I hope, I'm not sure, that people see that it's well done, that it's well made, that people have had a lot of great effort into producing it. So if you inherit a silver candle stick from your grandmother, you will not throw it away. So I guess it's the same. It is possible to do with the clothing, the bunad, our national costumes. We'll never throw it away. You might sell it, but you never throw it in the garbage. So it must be something about that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just a guess, but yeah, I think so.
I agree with the storytelling, especially. I mean, when I looked through your website and I saw also the small videos you showed partly here, and I saw the people behind it, that and the transparency, it connects somehow. That's true. That's really nice. And we have another question online, and it says, you don't want to produce too much clothing, but can you really make a living from repair of clothing?
This is a question. I choose to interpret it as a question on, is it possible to make a living from a circular economy? Because repairing your garment, just doing that will probably not be enough. But that is the challenge in the whole circular economy question, is it profitable? And my answer, my guess would be, yes, it can be profitable, but you need to be creative to make it profitable. People or businesses like Fyong, which is just renting clothing to business women and other women. They make a living out of it. And yes, I think it is possible, because it's quite expensive to buy raw material. And especially our raw material is very expensive. We buy exclusive raw materials. And the world will run out of raw materials in not that long. So then we need to either we need to repair, or we need to take back the clothing that is someone else is considering it. I don't want this anymore, and we have to make new products, and we need to sell them. Of course, somewhere it needs to be profit into it. We need to make money. So just repairing, no, I don't think we will make money out of it. But looking at our business as a circular business model, I think it is possible to do it. It's the same as when Oleana started in 1992, people said it's impossible to make money to produce in Norway. It is impossible. our wages are 50 times higher than the wages in Bangladesh, it is impossible. But it is not. You just have to make it possible. So I guess that's our challenge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what I was wondering about your company is how's the percentage in which field are people working? Because if you look at other bigger companies, there's a high percentage just on advertisements, and you already said that that's a very small part also in your production pattern. And on the opposite, a lot of startups I've looked into, they have a really high percentage focusing just on sustainability and the production process. How is it for you, and how much like worker, how much on the creativity board? I don't know.
We are very strict down when it comes to people.
Yeah.
So we have one creative director, one designer. So that's one in the same person. And then we, as the management team, are doing everything. Like I'm doing the marketing. I don't know how you should do it, but we just have to do a lot of stuff we don't know to be able to make it run, especially in harder times like it is now. That it's business is the whole fashion industry is in a big crisis. Then we need to be very flexible as employees and try to do the smart moves.
Oh, okay, great. And we have another question. I have a question about the production itself. I just have in my mind that usually a lot of chemicals are being used in connection with textiles. How is that with Oleana? And could you imagine a time when new production of clothes become almost an unnecessary because of second, third, fourth hand use? There are seemingly so many clothes existing around the globe.
Thank you for the question. Well, chemicals is a big problem in textile industry. Yes, you are totally right. We are using natural fibers, wool and silk, only wool and silk, sometimes alpaca. And wool is a lot more sustainable when it comes to both the production of wool, it's a natural, and also the after use. So I think we are scoring quite well on that point. Chemicals, the only chemicals that we are using is color for our yarn, but it's not, we are not the spinners, so that's done in Italy. And we've been there and we've seen how they do it, and we've seen how they clean the water afterwards. So that's one chemical that we are concerned about. And also washing of wool, and how they, when you shave the sheep, you need to wash the wool. So that's the other chemical, but it's a very, very small amount compared to sports textiles, for example, that where they have to wear masks, and this is a natural materials. It's easier to deal with. And the other question is a little bit also about the circular economy. Is it possible to stop production, to stop tearing out more raw materials from the world? I think it is. It is possible. We have enough in our world of textiles. We could probably survive for centuries. But we are in the business of feelings. The clothing industry is talking to the heart. So people really, they need to want it. And that's the key, to make products people really want, and to want for a long time. Yes.
So, that was actually a question I had to ask myself as well sometimes, because secondhand, as you said, gets more and more popular in our generation. That's why we have a decline in consumption. But clothes don't hold forever, so it's still necessary to
Yeah, so you're saying that
recreates.
Yeah, you need to do something with it when it's tear down.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the most obvious answer would be, instead of throwing the t-shirt away, you recycle it, or you color it, or you make something else out of it, instead of, because cotton is one of the most used materials in the clothing industry. It's very, very resource intensive. It takes a lot of water to make cotton. And what do we do with it? We need to find a way to recycle, in addition to keeping clothes for longer. And that's a lot up to the producer, designing and quality. Sometimes I'm amazed if I buy a pair of jeans that after a few weeks it feels like it's not in the shape anymore, and that's a big problem. We need to buy quality products, and then if it's not in shape anymore, find some way to reuse it instead of throwing it away.
Yeah, that's a really nice close-up quote, thought. If someone still, like we are now on time, 1 hour is already gone. Are there any last questions? Also online? Doesn't seem so. Okay, that's great. I'm very happy that everyone joined there online and here in person. It was a really interesting conversation, and there's a lot to learn. I think what I take out of this talk is also how you transport values, how you make clothing something that's not just bought and thrown away, that's exchangeable. And that you have to change your mind to create a more sustainable world. If you want to say anything.
Thank you. It's been very inspiring to be here, and thank you again for inviting me. It's a very cheap way to do marketing, so we can spend more on the products now. Yeah. But it's been very, very nice to be here, and thank you for being such an interested audience, asking questions, and you at Zoom. So thank you very much, and feel free to come and visit our factory.
Is it now open with Corona?
It's open.
Okay, that's great.
Just keep 2 meters and
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.